Welcome back to the Dice Never Lie Gaming Network. Friends of the channel know that I am DM Marathustra. Jared, you are welcome to join us at any given time on Twitch, or you can listen to these edited versions on YouTube, usually the following week. As we get everything set up here, we are rejoining the Twin Star Marauders in the city by the spire, Tolis, as they go after a bounty they've recently uncovered for Rulus Hobbs, a man wanted for necromancy. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this evening. It is a pleasure to bring these to you, whether it is to new players who are interested in Dungeons and Dragons and roleplay, or whether it is as a recap session for the players that we have. I always want to thank you, invite you to like, subscribe, and also comment if you can. Thank you all very much. Everybody be well and enjoy the evening's podcast. So we kind of went over a little bit of the recap already. Just that essentially last session we were kind of finishing up the kind of final moments of the rescue of Malchin and Jinx from the Temple of the Rat God. Among kind of where we left off was that you guys were exploring this kind of unknown depths beneath the actual temple. Again, the temple itself was very much kind of like on the outside of the city, kind of like little more than almost a like outhouse left on the streets. Inside, you find like a kind of like walkway down into the earth, and you see a massive statue of like a rat with its hands kind of outstretched, very kind of anthropomorphized, like begging for a gift kind of situation. Almost like hands out to like have like tapestries kind of like laid across its um, moving that statue kind of backwards revealed staircases that led even further into the earth. And while it was filthy in the actual rat temple, it only got worse as you went deeper and deeper into the underground and kind of went deeper and deeper into kind of like the sepulcher, like the tomb kind of beneath the statue of the rat god, the god of filth. And kind of exploring, you guys would kind of come in contact with some rat humans, some giant rats, um, someone who was like transformed into a rat, as well as a singular female who seemed to actually be human. And they were the large part like denizens of that place before you started just exploring deeper and deeper and deeper to where this like clue from the Sister Margarets of the Order of Dyra kind of leading you towards Jinx. You would eventually basically like be led through more and more tunnels until you encountered a bunch of like zombies who were almost just like dead in the hall, just kind of standing around. And with like the scent of blood and the scent of life, it kind of like ravishly came to life, and that was essentially where we actually picked up. But I know that's like weeks ago now. So, um, from those actual zombies, you explored still long hallways, kind of moving forward. It was kind of almost a cat and mouse chase, as you all had set off a few like thunderous spells that both kind of announced you and also seemingly your opponents were far enough away. It wasn't just that they came. I don't know how much you would really know of that. Not necessarily that they were coming to aid so much as trying to be prepared. And you guys almost like stumbled into each other, maybe like 10 or so minutes later, a few hundred feet down those halls. And once again, you were finding yourselves kind of fighting some of these rattling humanoid like creatures. Kind of taking like one little spot where you had found a secret door to like prepare yourselves for a rest. I believe you were ambushed in that resting place, and that's where we encountered like who we kind of spoke about as like the potential like the big bad who was kind of like the end of it all. There was indeed some sort of like spellcaster, like priest like person who lit off this crazy explosive. And with time to kind of recognize what it was, Dalton would probably be among the few who could actually recognize that it was a gun basically being used. Um, Kind of like a singular um, event at the time. It never went off again. Didn't actually hit anybody to see like the actual damage that it would cause. But with the recognition of like them as almost symbols of power just as much as like actually used as power. Dalton collected it. Uh, he would be aware enough that like to have it above ground is already illegal in itself. But it is something well worth collecting and keeping out of the hands of these vile rat folk. And you would kind of like eventually find yourselves in like a guard section, clearing out these tunnels. More and more time spent searching, following the actual route toward Jinx. You would find Jinx hidden behind another secret door in those halls, and eventually kind of like pulling Jinx forward. If you would, Justin, can you roll a d10? Uh, Jinx has succumbed to a bit of chaos and has a deformity, and I would like to know what that deformity.
It's two.
You can increase your constitution to 19. Your flesh is like wrinkled and discolored. You have like pustules of like black, green, and blue, like baubles almost, like underneath your flesh. It's very like toad like almost, where you have like these different like pustules, and some of them are completely different colors than others. But basically, parts of your flesh are starting to turn and starting to take. Oh, is it already daylight saving time?
Yeah, we lost an hour last night.
Try to be on top of that, but that's definitely one of the ones that get us.
And I didn't even, yeah, I didn't even think to let Chris know. Yeah.
What up, Chris? Glad you can make it though. Sorry to
Yeah,
surprise you.
no worries.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, so heard you're rolling on the fun table.
Yeah, I got pustules. Little did you know, I already had some. These just kind of blend in with them. Is that like an actual thing in the character sheet, or like do I just make note of it?
Oh no, that's absolutely a special happening. Um, Increasing your constitution to 19 is what it physically does, but as far as like what it really does is the deformity is just something you're going to, you know, have to deal with when and if it ever becomes a thing.
Wait, is that permanently increased to 19?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's insane.
So yeah, as they kind of like drag Jinx out of like this first separate tunnel, you're kind of like out of it, and I think you guys kind of went through a little bit more of the underground. You would have found to the south where it leads back into the sewers, past that guard station. Heading back through, you guys went through and looked through some of the other rooms, finding like the essentially like the bedroom of the priestess and the were rat, eventually stepping into a second temple dedicated to what would seem to be a different god. You guys would have found a statue of a far more chaotic looking, like massive, bulbous, kind of like grotesque, huge, like fat and like rotting flesh, um chaotic creature. It was far less humanoid than anything else. Its not necessarily rat-like in the least bit, but that god would have been inside of the other kind of temple that you guys passed through. Um, wanna say Jinx was almost incapable of even approaching that room, but I do feel like there was somebody who suffered just by like approaching it, but I don't remember in particular on that.
Hey, hypothetically speaking, if you like leveled up, could you put one more point and then have 20 Constitution? Like, does it work like that?
Oh, 100%. Yep.
Okay, cool. Sorry to ask that randomly.
I think you guys went through like the last bit of that temple, found they had kind of like a little bit of a treasure room, um, still kind of like refuse and like filth and like things from people who you could kind of recognize as having been captured. But you basically started to recognize like you were exhausting everywhere that you hoped to find Malchin without actually finding Malchin. And I think that's when more or less I took it to say, like, okay, I think you guys are getting defeated here by a little bit more of a oddity of how things played out. A bit of an oddity of having the like link towards Jinx in particular. But basically, we finished off with the rescue of Malchin being included, um, mostly because Malchin was behind a secret door that was behind a secret door. And it felt like that was kind of enough to almost like stop you guys from actually searching what was a room that you almost took a break in. You tried to take your short rest in it, but Malchin was beyond like one more secret door inside of that room in those halls. So we kind of like picked up or finished off rather as you guys like slaughtered the final rat guard who was protecting Malchin. And I believe we found out that Malchin also kind of starting to be manipulated by this like chaotic effect of this area, had started to almost like form like a canine like snout, and now Malchin, you have the I hope you still have this added, but you have the ability to spit acid 4 times a day.
Yep.
So you guys don't, you can kind of come about how you want to play those things in. But that's kind of where we're gonna pick up here. As far as things go, you got a little bit of a clue from within the bedroom that these rat folk were working with another kind of cult inside of the city. But you guys have a lot of room to still kind of control this. Whether you want to explore other things or whether you want to kind of move forward. But we're kind of going to pick up inside of that week, having kind of come about between where you guys have had, Malchin and Jinx kind of back with the rest of the group here. So it kind of just falls back to what kind of things do you all expect to have done in this past week in Tolus?
Um, so would this have been long enough for Dalton to start seeing any symptoms? Um, I think he had gotten some sort of disease from a rat bite.
Yeah, you would have start to feel the symptoms of the actual rat's bite, and theoretically, I think that's as simple for you as actually going to a priest above and not necessarily letting it run through your system.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, once he started feeling the effects, he probably, yeah, he would have gone to a temple or, yeah, priest or something to get that dealt with.
Yeah, oddly, it's one of those things where It's cool to say that you've like contracted a rat plague, but the fact of the matter is one, when you guys turn in rat tails, part of what the city even offers you is like, hey, if you're feeling ill, like go see this priest and they will cure you of the plague. Basically knowing that you're putting yourselves on the front line, they're putting that like, public health uh is getting like subsidized to protect you because you're protecting the people kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I think I remember that from another session. Yeah, where we went to a temple and brought in some rat, and that was a kind of included perk of healing us or curing us.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, for what it's worth, that's almost like the least of your worries. Um so effectively it's like as soon as you feel any symptoms, just go to a priest. So that's long run type of thing. You could have gone to one of the priests that you know. I think you've met now priests inside of the Temple of Darvis, in the Guildsman district, which would be near to where Dalton lives, just as much as going to one of the main temples, like in the Temple district. But there's many different Lothian priests, besides also that like Seraph, I think, can probably cast lesser restoration at this point as well, and also heal such things.
Hey, do we get our equipment and everything back when we recover? Like I had that glowing orb, and what about like gold and regular equipment?
Um, I would say
I'm okay with rolling for it randomly to see if I recover it.
in the long run, you probably would have lost whatever you had on you. As far as like actual equipment goes, there's no reason to say that you can't get starting equipment like from the actual guild. So you don't have to like delete everything. But insofar as getting captured, that's one of those things to recognize that like you shouldn't always be traveling with all of your gold. If you have all of your gold on you and I capture you, then yeah, delete it all. But that's just kind of up to you to kind of figure out like how much of what you have do you think you had on you? Because yeah, I would say it's best to say that's all gone. So potentially the drift globe is gone at this point.
Oh, the Ocean's Scimitar is also gone. That Sanguine Scimitar.
My bad. What was that, Chris?
Yeah, sorry. Then yeah, the Notion will also lose his Sanguine Scimitar, I guess. A lot of gold I had on me.
Yeah, I think that would be gone as well. I guess if each of you roll a D100, if you roll underneath a 25, you can keep those magic items. You guys would have a chance to look through that like garbage room, like the treasure room, and potentially be able to spot the items that you're more familiar than like the rest of the party would have been with those things.
I'm good. I already deleted everything, so. And I think with the weird like chaos mutation and everything going on, Jinx is definitely not worried about magic items or gold right now. He's like feeling guilty because I think he's gonna feel responsible for like giving in to chaos. and now he's probably going to be like ashamed of his like outward markings. So maybe I'll just like try to find some rags to cover up so people don't see my what I've become.
So if you guys don't have any particular like desire in going deeper into things here, effectively inside of, do I have a full map of Tolus yet? I don't think I've reloaded this yet. Let me throw up a larger map here. Give me 1 second. Yeah. So again, this is the full city of Tolus, where you guys have largely been kind of taking place things inside of the Warrens down here in like the south. It's not really selecting it how I want it. You guys have largely been kind of doing things inside of the Warrens, where the um, ooh, I can't even remember the name of that little tavern you guys owned. Doesn't matter; it's no longer yours. And you've kind of recently moved to area of the North Market, which I want to say is kind of right about where the point of that arrow comes up to, and that's where your new safe house is with the Goblin safe house. Um, Dalton and his family, like Davros, the Demarkis, are kind of down from this area. Your like priest contact is, I think, roughly around that gate around here. Oh yeah, that's not actually where the Demarkis were. The Demarkis are actually kind of down around there. Um, you guys got Midtown and Delver Square, kind of towards the center here. The woman that you guys saved was actually like around like this area. So you're starting to explore a little bit more of the city. Everything with the rat god here was inside of the temple district where you recently were, and that's where we're about to focus a little bit more on here, as you guys basically like moved into this area off of the Street of a Million Gods and basically stepped into right around 153 here. There's a tiny little temple, and that was like where the entrance to the Temple of the Rat Gods is. The bridge and kind of water that you guys would have been hearing and eventually, kind of, if you explored the sewers enough, kind of recognize that you were crossing underneath the Blessed Bridge here and entering into Midtown, like Delver Square. And effectively, you guys have kind of like started to explore this temple district, where there's some explicit and overt temples. And now you're starting to recognize that there are also temples that are kind of secretive and hidden. Um, if you go deep enough into searching, you will know that the Ebon Hand is actually a religious order who has a temple inside of the temple district. And if I recall offhand, they're right over here on kind of the western side of the temple district, right about where that 137 is. That is the Temple of the Ebon Hand. Would you all continue on searching after this group who seems to at least like vaguely be connected to the rat god?
I would imagine. Well, I guess I'll. I mean, they were kind of. Maybe leave that more to Malchin and Jinx to decide. Um, they were the ones who were kind of captured. Not sure if Dalton specifically would have too much of a reason to specifically want to go after them. But if it's something that the others wanted to do, he would be um, definitely down for that.
I think Jinx would want to try to figure out who that like wanted poster was, and try to like investigate that a little bit too, and maybe share that with the group.
Let me get an intelligence check from you because you also no longer have that wanted poster.
What wanted poster? I don't even remember what you're talking about.
Would you roll?
Oh, sorry, natural one.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you vaguely remember that you actually picked up a wanted poster, and kind of like had something that was interesting about it. I don't even know. Did I share that inside of Discord where you guys have access to it? Yeah, it feels kind of perfect. So at this point, um, that was with Malchin, right? Malchin, can you give me an intelligence as well to see if, like, if when Jinx kind of brings up this wanted poster, if you can recall any of it? Is that basically like you bringing that up to me, Justin? Is you recognizing at some point you're kind of going through your things and you're like, oh shit, they took that wanted poster.
I rolled a 17.
Gotcha. I think it fits to say Jinx probably had the actual poster. But Malchin is certainly much more like prepared to actually remember it. So you guys can see the criminal wanted was Rulis Hobb. Don't necessarily need to um, know a whole lot of the actual information that was on the poster. Just on some level, um, this kind of gives you like the clues that you kind of needed. But yeah, um, Dalen Guard is effectively the old like ramparts. This is again like one of those references actually to the old city of Tolis, the colonnade or not colonnade, the cannonade of all of those cannons that protect the noble district. That is effectively like the internal barricades of Dalengard. The old city is effectively Dalengard.
Yeah, I mean, so Dalton is still, he kind of still feels a little guilty about all the money that they had to spend to rescue him. So he, if this is brought up to him by like Malchin and Jinx, he'd definitely be down for, if he can help capture or kill this guy and get those 5,000 thrones. Be that'd be something he'd be up for.
Yeah, I think even not even necessarily 100% like going after this person, but just it's kind of intriguing that they're looking for someone that can animate the dead, either to kill him and get the money, or because they're looking for a necromancer.
So you also, there's no reason to not necessarily have the information because I think both Jinx and Seraph you wrote as relative natives of the city. The necropolis on a regular basis, it is um the necropolis is kind of under siege by the guards because every night the dead end. So there's definitely like necromantic ties to this city regardless. This criminal just basically like that kind of tells you that they're likely to be someone who has ties to the necropolis. Um, it's kind of a weird connection, but in general, it's kind of like appreciated that like normal people would never animate the dead because this city already suffers like enough from the dangers of the dead kind of thing.
Right. Nobody wants to be that guy.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of it to a point kind of thing. It's definitely like already so high of a priority for the city that to actually be doing it inside of the city is only going to make you it's going to draw too much attention kind of thing. So again, from a main city perspective here, Old Town is over here approaching the actual spire. And it is kind of on a set of cliffs leads up from the South Market, and there's like a slow incline that like leads up this area from the South Market into Old Town, and that's probably about like a 50-70 foot like cliff there. But the actual like ramparts of Dalengard in particular are this like most western part of it, and it is effectively the like castellation around the like switchback that does like the last like 100 or so feet in Noble District. So we'll pick up kind of bringing you guys in through this, and basically you're heading towards this little keep along the old cliffs of Old Town. So who do you think you guys are playing with here? Are we going for um I assume Chris is back to just Malchin, and Wesley has kind of just been, you've got Malchin back, you're good.
Yeah, I feel Marshall would like get out about just doing something after all that happened.
Gotcha. Do we have Seraph or Jinx heading out with them today?
I've got Jinx.
And then I assume your name Dalton. We're gonna go for Dalton today.
Yeah, I'll keep going with Dalton.
Theoretically, is Davros like are you going for I think we talked about basically turning him a little bit more into a fighter now that he had saved Dalton. That kind of theoretically what he's doing there, like calming down.
Yeah, I think he's maybe going back to work, maybe or maybe decide he's spending some time kind of actually more sort of like training. So he's kind of relied while he was searching for Dalton, he was relying more on his just kind of rage and strength and kind of brute strength. But now he wants to uh, essentially get some more discipline. So he's going to be spending probably these next weeks or months essentially training with the idea that turn him into a fighter from a barbarian.
Excellent. So yeah, we've got Dalton. I already forgot who you said with it was Seraph or Jinx.
Jinx.
Jinx, and then Malchin. So yeah, you guys are heading through the city, probably coming out from like meeting up at the Goblin House inside of the North District, heading near the Temple District. Let me just have you guys roll uh d6s for me. Let's see if anything kind of goes down while you guys are heading like the old town area. For one. All right. So overall, pretty simple kind of move through the like North District, where everything's kind of like food based. There's a lot of different things that you can buy there that aren't necessarily food based, but by and large, that is the fresh market of the city. Moving through the Temple District, you guys might have a chance to like accidentally see the Temple of the Ebon Hand, where I would say passive wise, Seraph and I think Malchin probably would at least like recognize eventually the black hand of the Temple of the Ebon Hand. Um, just kind of in passing on how you would cross between that area on your way to the Old Town District via the South Ward. The South Ward is much more of kind of like a traditional kind of like goods and services. It's a lot less like fresh food and a lot more of the things that you would have. That in part is why like the textiles of like the Midtown have a lot of different places like storage facilities wise that you guys have kind of dealt with there. But when you head up into Old Town, this is going to be one of the places where you're essentially kind of like questioned for not necessarily like being armed, but you're also not freely like able to just enter into Old Town so armed. So it's kind of one of those things where at some point here, you guys start to climb the way, and I think this is right about where it has the 59 on the map here, where you guys like are basically climbing that last street. Uh, I think it's actively called the Emperor's Road. Yeah, the Emperor's Road into Old Town, and that's where you would pass kind of a guard station and effectively have the guards who kind of like look to you and see what is your business today in Old Town. And at some point when you guys are getting questioned, what sort of thoughts do you guys have as you respond? Are you immediately going to um, bring up this person you are searching for? Is Dalton bringing the gun forward to turn in the gun? What kind of thoughts do you guys have as to when you are questioned by the guards? Halt there! What's your business in Old Town?
Yeah, I think Dalton would probably be knowing we were heading this way and knowing that he's not exactly up part of the upper class. He would probably be leaving the gun at home, not wanting to risk you know questions.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that was just me saying, like, if you want to turn in the gun, you are more than welcome to. But yeah, if you weren't planning on doing that as like a way to gain good favor, there's definitely no reason for you to like walk into the lion's den with it.
Morning, gentlemen. Dalton will greet the guards. We're here to try our hand at bringing a criminal to justice, earning a bit of coin.
Have you information about this criminal? What's your business here?
Sorry, just to clarify. So the check-in at Dalen Guard, that was after we found the information. I was thinking
So
more it was.
I think probably um you're remembering Dalen Guard like being listed on there might be something that like brings you here. That makes sense. But I think it's actually more like part of what that is saying is when you have this person, bring them to Dalen Guard. So you guys are kind of perhaps going about things in a little bit different motion because you know you're searching for a person, Rulus Hob. You know something about them, references Dalengard, but you're not necessarily entirely sure like what you're doing. So this is why I say like you might be going about this a little bit backwards here, but it's not necessarily incorrect. But the question is like, how are you going to get there? I don't think the guards are just going to say, "Oh, you're looking to collect a bounty. Head to Dalengard." I think the fact that you're being sent to Dalengard or it references Dalengard may clue you in that this isn't necessarily just like a common criminal.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yes, I definitely I saw that apply at Dale and Garden. I definitely misread that.
So what if we just bring up this character's name, Rollis Hobb? I mean, if we're looking at this thing and it looks like a larger than average bounty, which I'm assuming 5,000 gold's kind of a lot, and this doesn't just seem like a common criminal, maybe we can get some kind of lead, find out why this person's, a little more information, where they might have been, any kind of connections, rumors.
How are you saying that to these guards? 'Cause I feel like that's part of what I'm getting at here is like say that to the guards. You know, we have information that Dalen Guard is searching for the criminal Rulus Hobb, and we were hoping to find out what they could share with us or what could lead us closer to tracking this person down. However you go about, like, how do you say that to them?
Okay, I got you. I mean, gentlemen, we're not exactly your typical bounty hunters. I'm sure you can look at us and tell that. But we were just sort of trying to figure out a little bit of a lead. So we've got a name, and I'll mention Rulus Hobb. And we thought maybe we could get a little bit of a direction, possibly some information outside of the flyer.
Yeah, so I'm without forcing you to say, I'm sticking to the guards don't necessarily know that you're supposed to go to Dalen Guard. So they'll probably have some sort of like apparently like obstinate like, all right, well, what brings you to this area? This isn't a place where information is just freely shared. They might send you towards like the library inside of um Old Town. You might find yourselves also simply going to check in with the actual um I think it's in here. The actual like Delvers Guild and see what the Delvers Guild might bring you, like as far as those things. But as far as things go, I don't think there's any reason the guards know that you need to go to Dalen Guard for this person. But like through like a level of conversation, that's kind of where I'll put you. Like they can recognize that you're either going to the library, they can recognize that you guys are going to the Delvers Guild, or you could share more information that you're supposed to go to Dalengard, or at least that Dalengard is referenced with this person, how you found it.
Would there be a like a tavern who's like a well known tavern or bar that Dalton would know the name of? Because he was thinking like, what if we just tell them that so we gave him the name Ruth Rollis Hobb, and maybe we just kind of say there's a uh, someone we're supposed to meet and says they might have information about a recent sighting of this fellow, and we've been told to meet him at, and then the name of the place within Old Town. The idea that once we get inside, then we can kind of go where we want, but just to get past these guards, Dalton's thinking a little maybe kind of white lie.
So just to double check, these guards are sort of just like the guys at the gate to keep like the ruffians out. So we're just basically trying to get past them to go further.
Yeah, more or less at this point, you guys are just being stopped here, being asked why you're coming into this area armed.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I kind of misunderstood that a bit. I got you.
Yeah, I don't think there's a traditional like pub kind of thing or bar in Old Town. There's a few different things that might classify that you could kind of say are viable places to um like meet someone. Uh, all of them have certain ramifications because, again, this is the oldest part of the city. There's nothing that exists here that isn't well connected to other things. So if you bring up something, you're likely kind of attaching yourself to something else. I'm gonna have to push you towards this is where you can kind of recognize, just lean into the Delvers Guild here. I'm pretty sure 58 here is where the Delvers Guild is centered. That is your best way to say something that does not implicate yourselves of something else. If you're just trying to get yourselves into the city.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Delton's they're they're official members. Maybe that we've got paperwork, so maybe that's the best way to go about it. Yeah, so
Yeah,
Dalton might kind of flash either like his badge or if there's like an actual like piece of paper to we're uh, first thing planning to check in with the guild mates, see whether they might have any information. So that's what's brought us here.
yeah. Overall, with the kind of mention of being Delvers, there's little else that they're going to hold you up for, and you're kind of sent on your way. So that is kind of the simple solution there as well. Is just to say we are Delvers. It's part of what are some of the perks of joining the Delvers Guild is access to this area of the city, kind of without suspicion. So, um, more or less, that gets you guys through the actual like first gate there. You can continue on there. You can kind of head in other directions as you would choose.
So Dalton's thinking, given the size of this reward, maybe it makes sense to actually kind of do what we said and check in at the Devil's Field because maybe there's others who have been looking for him who might have gotten some information or um, it seems like a decent, good enough place to start. But if Malchin or Jinx have kind of other ideas, definitely open to those.
No, it makes sense. I'm sure there's some sort of like core foundation of knowledge about this character, and then we can kind of build on that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. We might also check because we know they have maps. Uh, might they have reports of creatures there as well? We can get a report of undead where there haven't been before. Might be a clue.
Yeah, makes sense. Anything to potentially narrow down the search area.
Let's see. I believe we've got Shad Leibovec. Is the kind of like head of the Delvers Guild. Um, Older person, probably about like 50-year-old. Um, by and large, draped in kind of like dark black cloaks. But he keeps most of the library like to himself. This library, let's see if I still have these uploaded or if that was crash. Is like a very large kind of like circular. Oh, there's all my city. A very large kind of like circular setup here, where there's like an open atrium in the center of the library, and all around it are different bookshelves in different levels. The first and lowest level is a little bit more of kind of like study areas. The second level above are where a lot of the actual like information and things are. But basically, entering into the library, there's different people quietly at study, but once you enter into the library, you would be approached by Shad, kind of coming forward, and um, I don't see any reason why he would not recognize Malchin, but that's going to be where. Welcome, friends. Pleasure to. And it kind of like takes a second look at Malchin for a moment, and um, are you doing anything to actively cover your face?
No, I don't think I am.
So he kind of looks at you, and with kind of like a hesitant kind of, uh, welcome, Malchin. It's a pleasure to see you again. Bringing some friends to join the guild.
Sorry, you said that. Dalton wasn't. Was he a member of the guild already? Think-
Actually,
I
I'm
have,
thinking maybe Davros was, not Dalton.
yep, I've got Malchin and Davros are the two members of the guild right now. So Malchin is the only one who has like the liberty of what you guys are hoping to accomplish here.
Yeah, pleasure as always, Chad. But not sure if they're joining today, but sure they're and happy to. We're actually here to look for something, if that's all right.
And
Dalton
what
is.
would you
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, go ahead. What do you think?
I was thinking Dalton might kind of pipe in at this point. While we're here, I might as well join, follow my father's footsteps and all that. Perhaps you know him, Davros, Demarcus. And then he'll introduce himself, and uh, yeah, basically he will be. Dalton is ready to officially join as well. Um,
Excellent. So yeah, he'll kind of like recognize with as we kind of like pointed out before, you guys have a pretty similar look. So bit of his hesitancy like with Malchin, um kind of like takes a closer look at you and almost with kind of a similar but albeit a very different situation, kind of recognizes that you two are very similar to Davros. He probably would recognize pretty quickly there like his familiarity there. Um, were you planning to join as an associate or at the guildsman level? And again, it's 10 gold for associate, 20 gold for guildsman. Most of the perks of guildsmen are going to pay off pretty quickly.
yeah, so Dalton will. Well, I suppose I could splurge a bit, and let's call it guildsman level.
And then he'll kind of like look over to Jinx and kind of see if you're pulling out any coin.
Sort of in between a few things at the moment. Not quite ready for any kind of new commitments until I tie up some loose ends. Sorry.
Well, if you would wait here, we'll be moving into guild only areas, but you're welcome to do nothing and touch nothing at all. And I'll basically like bring the other two in a little bit deeper into the library, and basically kind of continue that conversation. Um, More or less, he's isolating Jinx at this point, purely to kind of like establish, like, hey, pay the coin, join the guild, it has perks. But what are you guys going to ask him as he kind of like brings you further into the library and it continues? And what is it you are searching for?
And I was going to say, Dalton can offer to essentially lend Jinx the money to join if he's interested. If he, during the intervening week, was essentially able to sell those gold earrings that he had found. But we can leave that for later too if you want, Jinx.
Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm really not interested in joining at the moment.
Well, Shad, I suppose what brings us here is a seemingly rather ruthless fellow named Rullis Hobb. Pretty nice bounty on his head. We were thinking perhaps there might be someone here who knows of him or some mention of him in the guild's literature. And kind of throw his hand around, kind of at the around the library. Not really the sort of thing we've taken up before, so we're operating a bit in the dark, as it were.
It's an interesting inquiry you have there. I'm familiar enough with many delvers deciding to move into other lines of work as they prepare for different things, different forms of hunting. I'm not unfamiliar with that name. We actually have, and again, I've got the uploaded version of this to actually like say that it was collected from the rats. But in the long run, we can kind of go ahead and say that he actually is able to kind of produce like a book of bounties. And kind of going through, he pulls out this one on Rulus, and you can actually now like see the actual paperwork for it's going after um, Rulus Hobb. Um, let's see. I would say I believe the last person to track after Rulasab was some weeks ago. There was a delver who asked for this. Um, man by the name of Dalphus Dal Delphinius. I believe he had a place near the underground outside of Delver's Square. I've not seen him for some time, but he had said that he was tracking after Rulus as well, and that he had tracked him into the Guildsman district. If you wanted to look after him, you could certainly go find him. And he'll kind of like move off to like another section of the library and kind of like pull out some other paperwork and look up like a particular like address for Delphinians.
Much obliged, Shad. If Delphinius has been looking for him, seems might be prudent for us to have a word with him as well. And kind of now that he's had a chance to actually look at the poster as well, I think Dalton might be struck by just like that last alias. Seems like a little, unlike the others, right? So Rollis the Scar, Rollis the Blade, those are kind of self-explanatory, but he's just like, anything about why this one might be going by, you know, kind of like Sarah Naveen? Seems a bit different from his other names.
I don't have any reason to understand that it is any more than an alias. Simply, the initial two are given by those who know Saab is, and perhaps Saren was something he to hide his being, do whatever it is that he is actually wanted for with a rap sheet like this. It seems clear enough that perhaps many names might be used.
Of course, makes sense.
Did you have anything that you wanted to ask from Malchin?
Yeah, he would ask. This might be a bit shot in the dark, but seeing as he is haunted for animating the dead, have there been any cases of undead where there haven't been before? Reports of undead creatures like in odd places?
As far as the guild knows, and as far as I understand, there's been nothing beyond the normal. That is to say, there are indeed constant incursions of the dead from the necropolis. Many people speculate that they come through the sewers. It's the easiest thing to assume, but I think many of us also know the dead are already underground. It would not be difficult for them to find their way. Walls. It does little to try to bar them in. They are the dead. But yeah, like on some level, um, there's incursions of the dead pretty regularly in the city. It's actually part of the greatest danger of going into the Undercity is effectively, as you guys have already kind of encountered, um, the dead are sporadically everywhere under the city. The dead being above ground is far less common, but it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't happen in the city. Um, so when you're looking for somebody who animates the dead, I think it's going to be hard to track down like evidence of why someone calls them a necromancer, so much as basically somebody accusing them having seen them do it, kind of thing. Um, yeah, I don't know how to go into a little bit more detail on that kind of thing.
Well, it was admittedly a shot in the dark. Well, thank you.
So you guys can kind of head back towards where Jinx is. You've got like a little bit of a location, kind of where to go, like into Midtown to try to check out for this person. Do you have any other thoughts prior?
Oh, well, you guys are like all in another room. Can I just familiarize myself with the like logo and all their like paraphernalia for the guild?
Yeah, for the Delvers Guild, I don't think they really have a uniform anything.
Is there like a card or a patch or something that you like flash when you're like a guild member, or how does that work?
Just like everything with the city, it's all paperwork.
Oh, so there's like literally like Rolodex of names of people and they like look you up?
Yeah, they kind of have like two different individuals who are like paper pushers, that kind of like operate the two main guild like halls. And then everything else is just kind of like they're just libraries basically of information between like their map rooms.
But like if you gotta like prove that you're in the guild or something like that, or somebody asks you and you're like, oh, I'm a guild member, is there like some kind of like paperwork that you like flash them or something like that?
I'm not sure if I said it in a way that I left paperwork with like Malchin and Davros. I would say it's more likely that like saying you're a guild member, like for a lot of places, is probably going to be like credentials enough. Um, like going to actively like participate in the guild, you're usually going to have your paperwork like looked up until they actually recognize you as a guild member. So it depends. Are you trying to fake your way into the guild? There's not really a symbol for it. Could you fake the paperwork that you had paperwork? Yes, but it wouldn't put it on file with the guild when it comes time to do stuff.
Sounds good, no worries.
So, any thoughts? Are we leaving Old Town and heading towards Midtown to search out the connection you guys would have with Delphinius?
That's Dalton's thought for kind of our next best step.
Yeah, Martian agrees with that.
Gotcha. So you guys can head off into the city, and basically wander around and find your way back towards Midtown, leaving behind Old Town and searching out um, this kind of address that you've been. So as you guys kind of get closer and closer, you find the actual street address to where you're going in Midtown. And by the time you get close to where you're like expecting to actually find the house number, you're basically like on this kind of side street in Midtown, where there's a lot of things still going on. Midtown is always going to be like kind of hustling and bustling. And we're kind of like over here near like Wending Way, kind of between 197 and 198, just a little bit away from Delver Square there. And as you guys kind of like round this corner, you basically see like down this road little actual traffic actually at that point. Like looking back down Wending Way, there's still plenty of people kind of moving about. But along this road, you see um, a Litorian. This is a lioness who is a humanoid, kind of standing on her hind legs, and she is knocking on this door, and you can see from her garb like she's wearing different like leathers and carries like a longbow with her. But effectively, as you kind of like round this corner, this is the only person who is on that street. When you guys kind of round that and see this, they're approximately where you are expecting to go, and they seem to be kind of like urgently knocking on the door. What are you all thinking is around that corner?
Seems we might not be the only ones with business with him. Perhaps we should introduce ourselves. Dalton will say that to Jinx and Malchin.
Do they look like authoritative figures? Do they look scummy? Like, can we get any kind of idea just at a glance?
It's just one person. It is a Litorian, is like a lion person. She's like approximately like 6 or 7 feet tall. She certainly has plenty of qualities that are uh I don't know, like commanding of respect as any lion realistically would be. You're not just gonna go up to a lion and kick it like it's a common house cat. But as far as her clothing goes, you can pretty well tell this is not a typical like civilized city person. This is a person who's dressed in like um leathers rather than necessarily like finished clothing. This is a person who's like carrying a bow rather than like, walking around with like um, a book and a clipboard. Um, all around, quick little like look over it. This is some sort of hunting type person. And the lion qualities of being a Litorian probably does not draw away from it as well.
Have they noticed our presence yet?
You guys are kind of rounding that corner. You're probably still about like 100 or so feet away from them. This is just your first perspective as you kind of like round the corner. Basically expecting this address to be about halfway down the street, say on the left. And as you round the corner, there's a lioness halfway down the street on the left, like knocking on a door.
Dalton, you seem to have the right idea. And with that, Balsham just give a loud, not exactly shout, but like loud enough, like, "Hello there. Something troubling you?"
You see the person like kind of pause for a moment. They kind of like look to each side to see like there's nobody else on this street, and kind of like look back to you and just give like a loud lion's roar as they kind of just mind your business. And then she kind of like turns back to the door and like gives it another like knocking much harder this time, to like no avail, kind of like turning around and like watching as you all approach now. Are you kind of holding your position, or are you kind of continuing forward?
I think Dalton would have probably kind of paused at the roar, but kind of trying to like be a little brave and kind of putting a friendly smile on his face, trying to probably maybe trying to use some of his charm is going to kind of after a moment will start forward again and no need for that. You're looking for old Delph as well, kind of with a smile and continuing forward. Um,
Gotcha. As you approach kind of casually, um make an insight check for me.
all right.
So as you kind of say this, she kind of like recognizes pretty quickly as you kind of uh drop like looking for old Dalf, and as she kind of like places her hands like on kind of like the banister at this gate, like I almost think of this as like kind of like the stone entry stairs that you might find in like I wanna say, like, Brooklyn, but I don't know specifically that that's the right area. But just kinda like the old 19th, uh 18th century kind of style of having big stone stairways. So you're almost like 6 or so feet up when you're at the actual like front entrance to a building. So she's like already kind of like 6 or so feet above you guys looking down these stairs. And as you kind of say this, her like two front arms go down onto like the banister in the stone. And she kind of like immediately like leaps, and you kind of see as her hind legs cross over, and her anatomy belies like this cat form much more as she like quickly like pushes off with her front legs. Her rear legs kind of like cross about like xing across her back, and she covers like 50 feet of this area in just like 2 bounds. And it's just like bam bam, she's like already covering this area and almost right inside of your face. And you don't necessarily take this as like a severely hostile thing with that kind of role. I was looking for if you 5 or under. I would say that you might wonder about her intentions as she crosses this. But kind of as she like covers this area in like two very cat-like leaps, two quick little motions, she like walks a little bit calmer on her hind legs these last few feet as she approaches you. What do you know of Delphinius's whereabouts?
Well, now might be getting ahead of ourselves a bit. I'm Dalton. Um, you are.
She's going to try to grab you by like the scruff of your shirt. Would you like to resist? You can roll effectively acrobatics or athletics if you like.
I think Dalton wasn't really expecting that, so he's probably going to. I don't think he's going to really get out of the way. He's like essentially going to be kind of maybe a little too taken aback to try to escape, and thinking this person is like almost 7 feet tall, and Dalton's not the strongest guy, so he's probably thinking it's not even really worth it to try to escape. He'll try to get out of it again, kind of using more of his wits and charm.
Gotcha. So as you kind of say that, she's just going to reach out and yeah, like lift you up about like 8 or so inches off the ground, and pretty effortlessly as she just kind of like picks you up and like holds you face to face. Dalton, have you harmed Alphinius? And if you'd like to lie, make it seem like you did, you can say that. But otherwise, I'm going to continue here. You have not.
Yeah, he's going to very quickly like, no, 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 not at all. Um,
So she just draws you real close, staring like straight into your eyes as she asks you this, and takes a moment, just kind of like you have a few like hot breaths of her air, of her like, yeah, air, as she like exhales like right into your mouth, face to face. That like hot breath, you can smell everything about this rather feral kind of moment in this person's face. And she just kind of like calms a moment and more or less like will gently kind of set you down. Mithanis, Alphinius is my partner. It has been some time since we have seen each other. And then she's just going to say, I've returned from, oh, I don't know the name of the woods to the north of Tolis. But she's basically going to mention these woods. wouldn't be terribly hard for any natives of Tolis to like recognize. Like, there's a little like copt of woods just north of the city, about like a day's travel away. And you kind of get this sense like she's saying like, I'm just returning from a hunting trip and can't find him. Um, and basically, with kind of the recognition, you're not like a threat. She's going to return to the door, knock on it like hard one more time before she's about to like throw a shoulder into it and knock the door.
So I think once kind of she puts Dalton back down, he'll and once he hears that she's been out on a hunting trip, he'll be kind of, as she goes back to sort of banging on the door, he'll take a moment to kind of get himself back together, kind of maybe try to brush himself off a little bit, pretend like he wasn't scared out of his wits, and then he we haven't seen him either. Heard he's been looking for a fellow named Rollis. Did he mention anything about that to you before when you last saw him? Probably trying to move closer to the door as well, like maybe starting up the steps.
So as she's kind of like bashing in this door, like actively like taking down the door, just kind of like between like grunts, she's like kind of recognizes like Rolla sounds vaguely like the person he was hunting. But she basically has like the response of, I don't really know one way or another who that is. So while this is kind of going down and she like grabs him almost immediately, like returns to this door, starts to bash down the door. What are Malchin and what are Jinx doing at that point?
I guess I'll just like kind of be coming in close, smoking a cigarette. I'm assuming this person's about to bash down the door, so uh, just gonna walk in afterwards.
And I think Malcolm will like also be stepping up, but he'll be trying to talk to her, like go, maybe not break down the poor man's door. I might be able to pick the lock. Please let me try before you bash it in. I think Dalphinius would appreciate having a door on his house.
So as you go to say that, like to not break down the door, she like barrels straight through the door and kind of like rolls inside of the house, pretty much disintegrating the door into splinters. As she goes through and kind of like turns around, with a little bit of a kind of like recognition. A door we can replace. And she kind of like looks up. You see as she kind of like smells the air and then like looks around with a little bit of like peculiar kind of like look to her eyes and doesn't yell, but starts with Alphinius, Alphinius. And then she kind of like turns back to you all and, oh, coming in. Watch your step. Something smells of death. And there's just like a little bit of a hall kind of leading forward from where she's gone. A stairway that kind of leads up, like on her right, that kind of like leads up and a story forward. And then you can kind of see two doors on the left of this hall and then one door at the end of the hall.
So Dalton is going to kind of watching as she kind of barrels through and like muttering under his breath, "Well, it's one way to make an entrance." But he will follow in and kind of at her warning, he'll kind of nod. He'll probably his hand will drift to the rapier at his side, not drawing it yet, I think, and he'll probably glancing around. Are all the doors closed, or do there any look open? Any indication like immediately around of any sort of like struggle, like broken furniture or scuff, like obvious scuff marks or blood things? I'll probably take a look. Um,
Make a perception there for me. When you like look down the hallway, the actual doors like in the hall are both closed. At the end of the hallway, the door is open, but it's mostly closed. It's just like, say, like 6 inches or so, like away from being attached. But it's otherwise like it basically blocks the view at the end of the hall, but it's not closed.
gotcha. Okay, that's just an 11 on the perception. Uh,
Um, I'd say you can spot blood kind of in this immediate area. Um, I'm gonna say though, with the 11, you don't necessarily have like the initial, um, like taking the recognition to see like, is that, um, shit, I feel like I lost this word the last time I tried to think of it. Damn it.
oh, coagulated. Like,
Catharsis.
is it old or
Coagulated, yeah.
new or
Yeah, exactly. Like, did Mithray? Oh man, I forgot what I named Mithranius. Did
Mathanis?
Mitharnius like cut herself, and is she bleeding, or is this blood that is there? I'm gonna say Dalton sees the blood and reacts to it, but doesn't take the time to actually like identify is it old or is it new.
Gotcha. Yep, makes sense. But he might kind of look down towards the door that is not clearly closed and kind of back towards Malchin and Jinx, and then kind of nod in that off in that direction, like kind of essentially uh, trying to indicate maybe we should, check out.
Yeah, I'll check one of the other ways.
My bad. What are you going to check?
Oh, they kind of like went further forward, and you said there was like another way, or another
So there's
door.
like two doors down the hall, and then the door that's cracked open at the end of the hall.
And they all went down which way? Towards the end of the hall, or is it just like one big hallway and everything is down in one direction?
Like the stairway up to the second level is on the right side of this hallway. So it's more or less one hallway, and the house like extends off to the left, kind of thing. Trying to think if I can actually like open a scene that I can just draw.
But yeah, I think Dalton is going to start moving down towards the end of the hallway, maybe also trying to essentially maybe like just like very gingerly, kind of like maybe like touching Mathanis on the like the arm, and then like kind of pointing down as he starts down the hallway.
So are you going? Is your plan then to follow the huntress, like to follow her.
He's more trying to get essentially indicate to her that he's going down this hallway, and then if she like kind of goes out in front of him, he'll let her take the lead. But he's otherwise just heading down the hallway, kind of himself in front.
Gotcha. Yeah. So at this point, I'm gonna say, she moves up to like the second doorway and goes to move into that. So she'll pass the first one, potentially like keeping you behind her. And then when she gets to the second one, if you were continuing down the hallway, you can continue down the hallway. But she seems to kind of like pause there.
Gotcha. So he's I mean, she knows him better than we do, and so Dalton will probably, when she pauses, he'll probably stop then and maybe kind of glancing down towards the end of the hallway, but he'll wait kind of as she moves to inspect this second door.
All right, so that gives us at least a little bit of like what we can kind of look at here. Of like this is kind of the entry hallway. She'll kind of like move towards that like second door. Dalton is kind of following behind her, and then what do we have Jinx and Malchin doing? Just kind of like slightly behind there as well.
No, I'll investigate that other room, the one that we like walked by.
Yeah, I think Malshin would be like seeing them stop here, whether he would continue to the door that is slightly open, ajar.
Gotcha. So let's see. General kind of darkness inside of here. There's light coming from like the open doorway, essentially here. Um, let's go for Jinx first. Are you creating a light source as you go to open that doorway?
Yeah, if it's dark in here, I'll just light a candle.
Gotcha. So moving in there with a candle. So as you open that door up, you're gonna kind of quickly see like around you that there's like books and like bookcases along like the north and the western wall. You can kind of see like little bits of light coming in through um like windows at the front of the house, but vastly it's all covered by like blinds and like thick dark blinds that are letting through very little light. So with the candlelight, you can kind of see like the gist of this room. It's a little study. But as far as like being able to really see, you can't quite make much out because you're otherwise still like in a room of darkness, and a candle gives you access to like little more than like what's within arm's reach that you can actually see. Do you want to kind of like move forward and like open the blinds, like throw the blind?
Well, I'll just kind of look to see if I see like a like desk lamp or oil lamp, candles, something else that I can potentially light.
Make a perception for me.
13 total.
Excellent. So let's go over to Malchin here. You're going into the far door. Um, what is your plan here? Are you creating any sort of light as you move down this hallway?
No, I think I'll go without light as I like peek in.
Gotcha. Are you slowly opening the door and just kind of like making your way in? like with caution? Are you just trying to like get in there? What are you thinking as you like approach this like cracked door?
I'm thinking like slowly opening it, while same thing like looking into the crack as I'm opening it, and then stepping in.
Gotcha. Make a perception disadvantage for me. And Dalton, are you doing anything for light as you kind of follow behind the huntress as she's kind of like approaching the second door?
Yeah, I think Dalton is going to kind of reaching into his pack. He'll pull out a torch. He'll kind of mutter a word, waving his hand, kind of over it, and light it up as he casts. Essentially, uses prestidigitation to light the torch. Um,
Gotcha. So just do like a couple of sparks with prestidigitation, and you're gonna follow inside here. Um, so let me get a perception from you, as you kind of like walk in behind the lion.
Oh, and Malchin got an 11 with his disadvantage.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm glad you said that because I was looking at the 19.
and I got an 11 straight roll.
Gotcha. So yeah, as you kind of move in behind the lioness, you're gonna see like this room here is like a bedroom kind of set up. And as you approach, she's kind of like slowly moving inside, kind of like feeling out this area, approaching with like a little bit of caution, but kind of like looking around. And as you spark the kind of can or the torch behind her, like lights up this room, and very quickly you can see that there's like the bedding is kind of like thrown all about. There's some signs of like furniture that's like not in place, and there's signs of like basically like things that have it's just been kind of like chairs knocked over by like a little like desk in the bottom corner. That desk is like not like situated inside of the corner. All of the bedding is like thrown across the ground. There's no sheets or covers like remaining on the bedding. And she pretty quickly kind of like goes over, and you can see there's some sort of like residue or like off coloring to these. I'm gonna say they have bleach to like make white sheets, but basically the sheets are like not quite white. They're almost like some sort of like almost stained sort of color, and she like approaches it pretty quickly, like smelling in this area. And like as she approaches, like she like goes to smell this. Um and that's where we're gonna step away from the two of you. Jinx, as you kind of like look around for these candles or something to kind of light this area, you do see like there's a candelabra of like six candles next to kind of like a study chair that has like a little end table on it. And it's kind of in between the two bookcases along that like northern and western like walls of this room. As well as there's another kind of like oil lamp, or let's say like an oil sconce, that kind of sits like directly to your left when you enter it. It's like mounted 6 feet like on the wall. So like you've got like an oil lamp directly next to the door that you could light, or you could go over to the actual like reading nook and light like these six candles that are on like the little candelabra.
I'll just light the oil lamp right next to me.
Gotcha. So kind of doing this, you start to shed light across this room. You What was your perception check? 11?
Yeah, 13 total.
13? Yeah, so I think while you kind of like look over this area, you can spot pretty quickly like the similar like wanted poster for got his name, Rulis Hobb. kind of like in like this paperwork that sits next to that chair, you kind of see like the face. So you can like go over there and further investigate that paper if you would like. Um, and this is where, yeah. What do you think you are doing when you see that? Like, are you heading over to the paperwork?
Yeah, I mean the room is pretty well lit now.
I mean, it's one of those things. It's not like fully lit, but it is. It's no longer like cast in shadow.
Yeah, I'll go over, look at the paper, see if there's like any other relevant stuff.
Gotcha. Roll an investigation for me.
11 total.
11 total. So just kind of flipping through things quickly here, you can see that Delphinius has kind of tracked this person to the Guildsman district. You can see some of the information about like the like general area where he kind of like isolated him. You can see information about like a particular brew house, and kind of like what is it? It's like the corner of like two different routes in the Guildsman district, where he seems to kind of like circle this brew house, and there's like a particular time, say like 11 p.m. Um, like say like Tuesday is kind of written out there, and we're now on a Sunday, so potentially this could have been just under a week ago. Potentially it could have been almost 2 weeks ago, kind of thing. But you kind of find like this little bit of information that perhaps he tried to encounter Rulus like at some point 11 p.m. on this Tuesday, at that brew house. Dalton, what are you doing as you see the lioness kind of like smelling at this like coloring in the sheets? What is your take on this room?
Yeah. So Dalton is going to follow in, kind of as he sees her going to the towards the bed, um, and going to sniff, and he's spotting the kind of the discoloration is like, what is it? Is it blood? And he's kind of looking around, at kind of the somewhat disarray, and like, is there a struggle, or someone was looking for something? And I think he's probably going to go towards. You said there was a desk kind of in one corner. He's probably going to head towards that, and if there are any like drawers or anything on that desk, he would probably go to open them to take a look inside.
Gotcha. Yeah, so roll a investigation here. It's in that like southeastern corner. The chair's like upturned, the desk is kind of like not quite in the corner there.
That's just a 6.
Yeah, she'll like look back towards you, and as you start to like open the drawers, she's just kind of like with a quick response. Don't keep any baubles or jewelry. You're not gonna find any of value in our home. Malchin, as you kind of like step into this back room, you had a 13 or an 11?
Uh, I had an 11.
Yeah, so as you kind of like step into this back room, you're going on, you have dark vision though, right? As a trait?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So as you're kind of like going into this, you're going off of the glow that's kind of like coming down the hallway, and you're kind of just like looking over things. So as you kind of like open this door, um, you'll get a little bit more and stronger the kind of like scent of death that is in this place. A little bit of kind of like the scent of rot, a little bit kind of the scent of blood. As you kind of like open this door, you can see to the right of you There's like a wash basin. There's like some knives that are like in like a butcher's block, and you can kind of see like the signs of this is vaguely like a food preparation area along that like back wall. And just kind of like looking from right to left, you're just kind of like looking over everything. Everything seems like pretty normal until you kind of like get the door fully open and you're now looking like left down the room. You can see like an actual like table for like eating along kind of like the left half of this room, and you can see on that that there are splotches of darkness that one tell you it's some sort of like a liquid that's kind of like cast across this table, and two, with the smell in this room, you're likely looking at blood that is cast across this table. What does Malchin think?
Yeah, with that, just to make sure he will light his oh, what's that? His hooded lantern. Uh, just to like shed light on everything, just to make sure that what he's saying is what he thinks it is.
Gotcha. And you just sparked that with just like a flint and steel kind of thing?
Yeah.
Will you make a dexterity check for me, Malchin?
Ah, shite. Okay, yeah. Let's see.
Actually, you know what? Let me have everybody make a dexterity check. And if you don't understand, dexterity checks are a convenient way to say, let me have you guys roll initiative.
Yeah, I rolled a 5 total.
Excellent. That's good for me, bad for you.
If it's initiative, it'd be a 15 for Dalton.
Oh, but I rolled a natural 1. Do I get inspiration for that?
You do definitely get inspiration for that.
So wait, what's the modifier? Is it our initiative modifier?
Yeah. You're just rolling initiative right now.
So I'm 24.
And Dalton, you said you were 19?
15.
Alrighty, Mountain. When you go to spark your flint, you're kind of like pulling out your hooded lantern and you crack this first bit of light, and in an instant, you are going to feel pressure across your shoulder blades as something leaps down on you and is going to try to grasp at you. And let me have you do a athletics or acrobatics here. I just rolled with advantage and I got a 10.
I got a 21 for acrobatics.
Gotcha. So as you kind of feel this pressure like kind of come down upon you, you're able to prevent yourself from being like thrown down and grappled into the ground. And as this thing kind of puts pressure on you, it is then going to, and I'm going to crit with this one, bite down into your neck as you feel pressure stabbing into you. You are going to take 9 plus 1, so 10 piercing damage, and then 12 plus 6, 18 necrotic damage.
So a total of 28.
Yes. Sadly, that was a big critical take. Your total hit points are reduced by that 18. cannot be healed those. Your hit point maximum is now reduced by 8.
Oh, right. I haven't rolled my hit points uh, this session. Should I do that?
100%, yeah. Like you guys normally have, what do we do it as? The average, like the low side of an average rounded down is your traditional hit points. That's the minimum you can get. But every single day you should roll to see if you were above that.
Let's see. I should roll 4d10s, right? Mm.
So yeah, as this happens, this is then going to come to Dalton. You are the first person to react as you basically hear um like this building is gonna go from like silent to you kind of hear like some of the as a Jinx kind of sparked his torch, and a few moments later you hear as like Malchin sparks his torch. But the moment you kind of hear like this little bit of breaking of the silence, there's the sound of bodies tumbling effectively as this creature like is leaping down and like rolling over Malchin and kind of like biting into Malchin. That's going to sound a lot like just like a body falling down the stairs from outside of this room. I think it's close enough that you could recognize that it is not falling down the stairs that are outside of the room, but actually coming from like the north side of that hallway.
Gotcha. So Dalton is like just turning back to tell Mithanis that like she's got the wrong idea, as she tells him like we don't keep any valuables. When he kind of hears that, and suddenly like you know he's going to kind of like stop and rush out because he was thinking of initially his thoughts were going towards the same place that Malshin was heading. So he's going to be kind of running back out, probably calling out Malchin, that you? And then um, as he gets out here, is he able to? I guess he's probably able to. Is he able to see through the doorway that something is?
You've got a torch.
Yes.
I'd say as you kind of like move to that point, you can see that there is like a humanoid creature like mounted on Malchin's back. And it's like biting down into his neck from like almost like being perched on his shoulders. But it's
Gotcha.
like hunched over, like its legs are like in like a triangular shape. Its arms are like right next to like its knees or above its shoulders, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like this thing is like crunched over as it's like biting down into him. It's a very tiny package for how big this creature might be for it to actually be standing on its legs.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah. So as Dalton sees that, as he's like kind of, it's like Melchin, you are, and then he sees the thing. Is like, damn it, hang on, uh, and he's gonna give a shout, like, got company, and try to rush. I think he can get. I think he's got enough movement left that he can get kind of to Malchin as he's essentially drawing out his rapier and stabbing at the form that is kind of latched onto him if he can.
Yep, that's no problem at all. As far as things go, like the map's meant to be more of a representative than necessarily like actual space. I'd say you're perfectly within that range to get there. Crit. Oh wait, no, that's Jinx's.
Yeah, so that would be a 24 to hit for it would be a total of 4 piercing damage with his rapier.
Gotcha. Solid hit into it as you like stab into this creature. You can kind of feel with like that like depth of a strike. This creature is not armed. It is effectively like naked. And in the moment, not moving fast enough to kind of like stay away from your blade. You do indeed kind of like pierce through it. But you don't see any blood flow as you kind of like stab through its flesh, kind of recognizing that's not a magical blade, right?
It is not. No.
Anything else from you this turn other than kind of like moving into the space, announcing, and stabbing out to assist?
I think that is going to be all for this turn.
I think right behind you, I've got the Huntress. Um, she's going to, yeah, I think she'll cover like the same kind of ground, kind of leaping through the door, giving her much more movement for the Latorians. I'm not really sure how much their movement is. But as she kind of like leaps through the door, maybe like rolling across the two, when she like kind of like pulls out of her roll from the other side of this thing, she's going to like draw out just kind of like two arrows from her quiver and simply strike out at it, like trying to stab them in the creature. Um, but she will hit with one, miss with the other, and she's gonna do like 7 damage as she stabs into this thing. My bad. What was your damage? What did you do when you stabbed it?
Just 4 non-magical piercing.
And then from there, it is to you to react, Malchin. What are you doing as your friends come to your aid? You've got this thing biting into your throat.
Yeah, being severely wounded by that. He's gonna pull out his scimitar and short sword and try to hack at this thing. Try to get it dead as soon as possible. So the scimitar is 14 to hit.
As you strike out with your scimitar, it is just kind of able to just barely move its flesh out of the way. You like cross and barely touch the flesh, but do not draw any sort of like cuts into it.
All right, then here's for the short sword. Ju-
15 is a hit.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. For a total of 17 damage. Everything non-magical.
Um, ooh,
Oh, and it would be, what is short sword? Is it piercing or slashing?
yeah, it doesn't matter. Um, just weird because I wonder if your like hunters things, whether they say how they're worded, if they actually add it to the damage versus are they their own thing. Um,
I mean,
like
it says it
is
takes an extra 1d8 damage if it's below.
does it say what kind of damage it is?
No, it's just when you hit the creature with a
Okay.
weapon attack, so I'm
Yeah,
guessing it
so
should be
it
from that.
probably is still from that. So you said it's another 17 though?
Yeah, 17 total.
Gotcha. So it's like 9 more as you stab into it, or rather slash across it. Again, like splitting open the flesh, no blood's kind of seeping out. This thing doesn't seem to be bleeding as you guys are striking across it. And it's going to go to Jinx. Um, you are probably more than one movement away from getting into melee combat, but you are easily, within getting just about there. If you wanted to cast the spell, I see no reason why you couldn't cast the spell this turn and cover much of that distance. But getting there from melee is where I think you're probably a little bit too far away from the front room.
Oh yeah, I'm not looking to melee with it. I'll just like walk back out to the hallway, I guess, and guess when I see that the thing's like on top of Malchin or whatever, I will. Can I see is Malchin like mortally wounded or whatever?
Oh yeah, he is mortally wounded. I forgot to say that after that big hit.
Much of Malkin's features as well would be almost like decrepified and almost like sunken, as like life was sucked out of him. He's not just wounded. Like this is like the animating principle of life is sucked out of him as that creature bit into it. He looks horrific.
Okay, I got you. So can I get any closer than where I'm at? Can I, or is that's pretty much 25 feet? Oh wait, 30 feet I have?
Like I was saying, like the space is negligible. I would say you can't get into melee, but I don't care where you would like to place yourself.
Okay, I'll just get closer. I want to make sure that I have like a clear line of view as much as possible to what's going on.
Yeah, there's definitely things in front of your view here. Like Dalton is in the doorway effectively. Malchin is effectively just across the doorway, and like the huntress, the cat person, is like leaping through this door. So this thing is up above the door somewhat. It's not like the most well, realistically, also now that Malchin's can't really perch on his shoulder. But it's basically the type of thing like this thing is essentially just inside of this room. There's definitely things blocking you. It has some sort of cover until you like get past that door.
All right. Well, I'm gonna just I guess I'll just hold up my left hand and I'll make a V with my thumb and my pointer finger, and then I'll just say, "Hold still." I got him locked in between my sights, and then I'll wind up with my right hand and throw my boomerang at him.
Gotcha. So make that boomerang throw. That should hit regardless with the 17.
Yeah, got him with the dirty 20.
Yeah. So you can like throw it on in. Um what is it normally? If you miss, the boomerang comes back to you? I gotta say the boomerang, you're not gonna get the boomerang back throwing it down a hallway like this.
Yeah, it's normally only if you miss it comes back.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that makes sense. Boomerang's just gonna kind of like fling across. What's the damage for it here?
D4 plus 3, so 4 total.
Gotcha. So a little bit of a smash into it with the boomerang. You've kind of like run up to there. Are you doing anything bonus action wise?
Yeah, bonus action. I'm just gonna say, Malton, you don't look so good, and I'm gonna do healing word on him.
Gotcha. So while you heal him there, everybody who's closer to this creature, now that it is like inside of the light of you guys kind of like moving in on it, you can see as many of these flesh wounds are already starting to almost like reseal them as like the flesh itself kind of like stitches itself back together, sealing up like these slashing wounds, and its flesh kind of heals. It is going to
Malchin at 6 total.
Okay, thank you.
I think I am going to once again do a strength athletics for me, Malchin, to contest as it's trying to grasp onto your shoulders again and handle you.
Strength athletics. Okay. Let's see.
Or athletics acrobatics, my bad. It's just your choice of grapple.
Yeah, I just for safety reason, I'm gonna use my inspiration on that.
Might not
Needed
be
more.
enough.
No, I think I needed more inspiration.
Oh wait, I saw Dalton's roll, I feel like. Or wait. Oh, my bot's computer makes it so I don't see Malchin until it rolls. So you had a 13 total, like with the advantage roll, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I had a 20 for my roll. I got a nat 17. So I'm going to grasp onto your shoulder, and I'm actually going to throw Malchin against the wall. Um, and just gonna do I think I'm just gonna throw you up against this wall here. Take 3 bludgeoning damage, and then just make a dexterity check. Get over 10, you can remain standing. If you get under 10, I'm going to have you fall prone. And then it is going to leap across, and it is going to bite into Dalton.
Oh, okay. I am standing with that 12 then.
That 2 to bite into Dalton's neck. So as it kind of like throws Malchin towards the north, it like leaps off of his shoulder, like propelling him into that direction, and is going to leap towards Dalton and try to bite into your neck. Just kind of like getting caught up into like the like arch of the door. It kind of like almost like grasps into like the wall of this interior, and just kind of like shredding part of this doorway as it flings itself towards you, Dalton. It is going to miss with that attack, and that's going to bring us to Dalton. How do you react as this creature basically flings Malchin to the side and goes to bite into you?
Yeah, so Dalton managing to evade, but as he sees Melchin kind of get thrown against the side, he's going to move up beside Melchin. He is going to um, kind of and you said we can kind of see some of these wounds sort of healing up. He is going to uh, drop his mm, he's going to drop the torch at his feet. Um, well, actually, yeah. So essentially, I want to, as he's dropping the torch, pull out a dagger. He's got like the dagger kind of strapped on his leather armor. He wants to try and stab into this thing, but he wants to, if he can, essentially try to, um, like stab it into a place and leave it sticking out of the thing, if he can.
Gotcha. So you're trying to stab it with the dagger, but leave the dagger behind.
Yes.
Gotcha. You can make that attack.
That'll be a 17 to hit.
Solid hit. It still like has like an arm through like the stucco of the wall, and as it's like struggling to kind of get itself away, you're able to sink into its flesh. Is that a
And
1?
Yeah, so it'll be 4 total piercing damage, again non-magical. And he's kind of shouting, "Hang on, Malchin!" And I think with my bonus action, I'm going to try to essentially inspire Malchin, like, hang on, you know, keep your feet, um, and yeah, essentially try to give him bardic inspiration, which is a D6.
Excellent. So yeah, as you stab that in, you can inspire Malchin, and we're gonna have that go to the huntress. Um, let's see. She's going to step away and draw her bow. Creature's gonna strike out at her and try to claw her with a big old two, big old miss. And as she kind of steps away, drawing her bow, she's going to pull 2 shots back and take her shots here. First one should hit with a 17, and second one a 6 with advantage. Um, no, she does not. Sustain that one. So she gets 1 arrow downrange. She's gonna do the 8 plus 4 for 5 more damage. And that's gonna take us to Malchin.
Having been thrown into a wall, uh, yeah, he'll like try to get to the other side of it, so it's sandwiched between him and uh, Dalton, and then try to swing again. See if it hits this time. That's a 22 to hit,
Solid hit with the first with the scimitar, and then short sword.
and the short sword for 10. So I'm
Big
guessing
ol'
that
miss with the
misses.
short sword. Yeah. So again, this creature is all movement speed, and it's one of those things where you're kind of finding here that you can usually draw it into one of your blades with the other, but you're kind of coming up short with the other. Damage from the scimitar.
That's an 11 total.
So yeah, you see everybody kind of like moving around this thing, and like the melee's like taking part in front of that doorway still, Jinx. What would you like to do as your boomerang kind of like scatters to the ground inside of that room?
Um, do I have a decent idea? I mean, obviously, it's like a bunch of flashing at a distance, so I probably don't have a clear view of what's even happening. Can I see what the creature is? Like, do I have a rough idea?
Uh, roll a nature check. I'd say at this point, other than some sort of like fleshy creature, you don't really have that much to go on. It's not something that's clothed.
Okay, I'm just gonna try to hit it with a vicious mockery. It's
And a crit
14.
fail.
That's one insult then.
I'm an idiot. I didn't even realize the claw attack on this thing has a grapple. I don't even have to grapple you. Yeah, so as this kind of like melee around in circles continues, um, it is going to see. Oh yeah, you'll see its flesh heals again. Some of the wounds kind of like healing themselves. Um, say at this point, you kind of see like the dagger almost like being drawn out of its flesh as the flesh is like healing around the dagger. You may not specifically notice it, but if I ever get it back to full hit points, the dagger's going to fall to the ground as it heals. But theoretically, I think it's potential that damage is not being healed yet in what it heals. So kind of in between whether Dalton really notices that. Um, let's see. It is going to leap over Malchin and yeah, I think I'm gonna do it again. I think I'm gonna try to grapple throw Malchin into the wall again. Let me get a contested athletics acrobatics from you, Malchin. I got another 17, so I got another dirty 20. And then Dalton, theoretically, you are unarmed right now, but if you would like, you can punch at the creature as it steps out of your melee range.
So he does have his rapier. He dropped the torch.
Gotcha. So yeah, you can stab it with the rapier there, as it kind of like leaps away from.
Yeah, I rolled a natural 1 for a total of 5.
That should be a 21 for me to hit for 9 uh, piercing.
Gotcha. So piercing through it as it kind of like leaps into Malchin. It's gonna do another. What is it? 8 slashing damage as it like slashes into you with its claws. And it's just gonna like drag Malchin back as it like leaps over and tries to bite into the huntress as she's like pulling another arrow. And it's gonna go for it's a nat 19 to hit her. It is 6. So you see as it's going to suck blood from the huntress this time again, like piercing through into her throat. And you'll see as parts of its flesh are healing. And this is probably where the dagger's going to fall out. And then you'll see as the huntress herself is weakened, take a total 16. That's going to take us to Dalton.
Okay.
Wait
And
a
he
second.
saw.
Wait, hold up 1 second. My first attack was a disadvantage from the wound from the words. So don't take any damage there, Malchin. I rolled a 17 and a 2, so I am going to fail to grapple you, which will mean as it kind of like leaps across to the huntress, it's going to leave your combat as well, so you can make an attack of opportunity.
Yeah, and 2 for a total of 7. Holy hell.
Sure. My bad there. That'll take us to Dalton.
Okay, and he said he would have seen the dagger essentially drop to the ground.
Yeah, as it's like feeding on the lioness, you'll see like that like point where you stab the dagger in, like the flesh like heals up, and the dagger is just like scattered to the ground as the wound closes.
Gotcha. Okay. Crap. I had a
Um,
plan for that, but uh,
Solid point for you guys to start to understand a little bit more about what sort of undead creatures heal as they feed, and specifically they feed on flesh or they feed on blood. So start to connect some of those dots of what you guys are fighting here between your characters and your players. I think you guys can start to pick up that this thing is a vampire.
gotcha. Yeah, so I think Dalton is, if he can, he's going to go to. Can he both essentially scoop up the torch, or is that an action? Like, or can he do that if he's planning to essentially is because he's seen these things like that the wounds seem to be healing and his blade doesn't seem to do anything, so he's thinking, I don't know, maybe if I just like try to essentially burn it with a torch, but the torch is on the ground currently. So as part of his attack, would he be able to pick that up off the ground, or is going to take his action to pick it up?
It's a free action to pick up, like to object interact, so you can pick it up as part of your free action, and still make an attack.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So he'll do that. He'll kind of rush back, uh, picking up the torch, and yeah, he's just going to essentially try to essentially like thrust the lit torch into this creature, hoping maybe fire might do something more than his weapons seem to be doing.
Gotcha. So you're trying to burn it with like the burning end of the torch.
Yeah, essentially just trying to thrust it into the at the creature.
Gotcha. Make a improvised attack. I would assume basically no proficiency here. I think tavern brawlers are the ones with proficiency on improvised weapons.
Yeah, so it should just be a straight d20 roll, right?
Yeah, like a strength. Could be dexterity too. I would say strength or dexterity. But yeah, straight D12 essentially.
Well, okay,
So
so and then damage. I don't know what the damage for a torch would be. I feel like it's like, I don't know, like the rules. It's like just like one fire damage or something, or I don't know if it's 1d4 fire damage or something like that.
yeah, I would say I feel like a D4 is usually pretty solid in damage. So I'd say do a D4. So you can have a D4 plus 4 the damage right now. What's your dexterity?
3 plus 3.
Gotcha. So we can do 7, 10 fire damage.
Okay, and it looks like, just for reference, the PHP does say it's the rules is written as 1 fire damage for a torch.
Oh, gotcha. So that'd be 5. Doesn't even have a damage die, so it doesn't even
I
have a
mean, I guess you could
critical.
double it to 2 and then plus 3 if you wanted to add the dexterity bonus, but
Yeah, that's super weird. I just feel like lighting something with a on fire. It kind of makes sense. Um, yeah, we'll just do fire damage. And that's gonna go to Huntress. Hmm. Definitely can't take too much more. After being hit by the bite. Let's see. Good enough. So I'm gonna have her cross over again, try and put some space between her and the creature. Uh, it'll slash out at her. It's not gonna be enough to hit. let her take 2 shots here as she draws a arrow to her bow. First one, she's got a plus. Yeah, first one should hit just at its AC, and the second one definitely hits. She'll do 2d8 plus 8 for a total. Yeah, she'll do 6 and 11. So I feel like so 6, 3, and 5, so 8 total. And that'll take us to Malchin.
Yeah, I think Dalton has right. Yeah, Martian is gonna pull out an oil flask and try to throw it at the vampire creature. I'm gonna use my inspiration for that.
Wait, did you get another inspiration?
Yeah, I
Or
rolled
you used
another nat
inspiration?
one.
Gotcha. So same thing, just doing improvised, essentially without proficiency dice. Let's roll a d20 here.
So 13. Not sure if that adds any.
You can add your dexterity. That should be enough to hit it with a 15.
All right. Then that is coated with oil, which if it someone lights it on fire, it takes an extra 5 fire damage every turn it's on fire for, let's see, for 2 rounds.
I think with Dalton currently attacking it with fire, it sounds good to me if we have it light on fire right away and start taking those 5 damage right away here.
And then, because can bonus action attack, right? With my short sword after that.
Um, you have the 2 weapon fighting skill that like lets you not use light weapons.
Yeah, I have dual wielder, the feat.
So you can like 2 weapon fight with any weapons, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then you should be golden there.
Okay, yeah, then now I'm gonna try to step up and swing with my short sword. That's 13 to hit.
That's going to be enough that it is dodge.
Yeah, and then that's it for Malshin.
And that'll take us back over to Jinx. They've moved out of the way. If you cross into the room, though, you'll see that it is currently on fire as it's like coated in oil and has been lit aflame by Dalton.
All right, so like Jinx comes like running up, and as he does, he's like, "What the hell was that thing? Is that thing? Oh my god, it's a fire elemental!" And I'm gonna cast. I don't know if this is gonna work or not, but I'm gonna try to do hold person on it, which is it only works on humanoids, and it's Wisdom 14.
This is one of those things. The first time I did this, I didn't really recognize what I was going for, and my DM let me do it. I'm going to give you a chance for this to be successful, but normally this does not work. This creature is not a human. Let's see. So you see as you kind of like round the corner and try to charm it, it seems to hold for a moment. Uh, any other reaction from you? I am not going to allow that to happen in the future, though. By the way, just the one time you can use that ability. Anything else from you, Jinx, or is that it for right now?
Oh no, it just says there's no damage or anything. You just do a wisdom saving throw on your turn.
Gotcha. End of my turn or at the start of it?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
It says at the end of each of its turns, it does another wisdom saving throw. On a success, the spell ends.
Gotcha. So you see as it kind of like holds still for a moment there, and then as it kind of like flexes its muscles, I don't see any reason why its flesh wouldn't heal while it's being held. Um, so you see as like even as its flesh is burning, it's like healing damage as well. But this thing kind of just holds still, and it's gonna go to you, Dalton.
Yeah, just so Dalton is kind of as it kind of like leaps a flame as the oil gets added, um, and kind of the heat's going off, and Dalton now is like wants to get this thing away from them. He is going to attempt to cast Dissonant Whispers at it. So there's a Wisdom 13 saving throw.
Not a save or suck though, right? You still do damage even when I save.
Yep. So it'll be half of. So it'll be 6.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you kind of see as it's like held by whatever magic Jinx is using. You kind of like start to like whisper, and you see the creature kind of like shrug off that pain as well. And it should go to the huntress if you're done.
Uh, yeah, I think I'm actually going to. I'm going to try to inspire her as well. I can have 2 active at a time, right? Like I don't have
I
to
don't
wait
see why
for
not.
Malchin to use his.
Correct. I just
Yeah,
don't
so I'm
think
gonna.
you can inspire Malchin twice.
Right. Yeah, so I'm gonna attempt to essentially kind of inspire her, essentially like trying to like you know almost like improve her aim, like kind of encouragement with my bonus action, and then that will be all for Dalton.
And that's a D6. Oh, wait, the 9 is a 15, so I already get the hit. My bad. So
But
that makes
yes, it
it a
would be a D6.
6. And then that one will be for 11. So D and 5. Um, yeah, I think she's just going to call out at this point. It's like something to the effect of like flesh is healing fast as we can deal out damage. We need to change the circumstances. Maybe something to that effect is like what she's able to kind of like yell out to put it out in the air. What kind of things can we do, guys, to change the situation here? You guys are dealing a lot of damage to it. It's taking damage, but at any given point, like it's healing almost as fast as you guys are dealing damage. Um, but that will take us to Malchin. What would you like to do, Malchin?
Yeah, I'm thinking, hearing that from her, can I think this might be a really bad idea, but like grapple it and try to drag it out the house as much as I can. But
Gotcha. Flip the script and try to grapple it. You can certainly go for that. It's going to be a strength athletics, contested by
And is it still on fire?
oh yeah, it is for another round. It's gonna hurt.
Yeah, with it burning out this turn, you don't have to take fire damage from it. But if you get 5 below me, I'm gonna deal some damage to you. Fire damage.
All right, I'll take that. I'm gonna use the bardic inspiration. That was a D6, right?
I mean, you can check to see what you roll first, but yeah, it's a D6 is what.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna add a D6. That's a 7. A total of 10.
I got an 11. So you try to grapple it. It is still going to take the 5 fire damage, and it'll kind of go out as it's like struggling with you. But it is able to basically retain its autonomy and prevent you from like dragging its body about.
Okay, then just for bonus action, I'm just gonna put my hunter's mark on it.
Gotcha. So grappling is technically the attack action. I don't see any reason why you can't slash at your sword if you would like to, instead of
Oh,
Hunter's Mark.
okay. I did not know that. Then I'm
Yeah.
gonna nat one again. That's my third one.
Grab up some inspiration though. So yeah, you do still fail to slash at it. That's going to bring us back to Jinx as the creature like goes out from on fire. The spell like works on this creature, but it didn't like hold it very effective for all that long. You could try again to hold person, or you could try to switch something up if you have any ideas.
Yeah, like obviously it's really dark in here. Um, can I see like big blinds in this window over or in this room over windows or something? I mean, it was day when we came in, right?
Yeah, yeah, you guys are definitely inside the daylight. Pretty similar situation here where there are big, thick blinds. Um, where would it make sense in a kitchen to have blinds? I would say like something along like that area and that area. Like big windows next to like where the dining room. Oh yeah, technically you guys are kind of like fighting where the table theoretically would have been. But like kind of like with a table kind of beneath you guys there. This is like the kitchen kind of like sink area kind of thing.
All right,
Um,
I'm gonna. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just saying like I feel like that's a pretty solid place where there would be windows is along like that like back wall.
So I'm gonna run like diagonally across to this one, and then I'm gonna try to jump up and grab hold of the blinds, like with my forward momentum. Try to like sort of Tarzan the blind, like use my momentum to like open it.
Gotcha. Let me get an acrobatics from you.
So acrobatics is um,
Should be sufficient there to like swing across with a 13 plus
Yeah,
modifier.
18, 18. So it's pretty good.
Gotcha. So as you like swing across these like back uh curtains, like basically like tearing them out of the like rings that kind of hold them, and kind of like falling to the floor and kind of like rolling yourself to your feet. Light scatters across this room, and you're going to hear as this creature just kind of screams out like, and you'll see as even as the fire kind of goes out, its flesh is still like burning and melting in sunlight. Any other action from you, Jinx?
Well, I used my move was 30. So can I do anything else, or is that pretty much it?
This is a bonus action kind of thing. You definitely have bonus options, but it's just whether you're going to expend those resources.
Okay, I'll just I'm just gonna yell out, "Oops! I'm afraid of the dark." That was for me. And then I'm gonna do bardic inspiration on. I'll do it on the lion since it was her idea.
Alrighty. Theoretically, the lioness already has inspiration. I would say you probably can't stack it right now. I think that's part of the problem of you guys have two bards right now. I'm pretty sure Malchin has not used his. The lioness has inspiration, and just hasn't needed to use it yet. So I would say if you want to bardic inspire, you're probably left with just Dalton, right?
Oh no, that's okay. I'll do Dalton because you can't bardic inspiration yourself, so he definitely doesn't have it, right? So yeah, I'll do Dalton. That's fine.
Yeah, I think
And
you
actually,
guys have to get level 6 or something before you can self inspire.
I think actually Melchin used his. So if you wanted to give it to him, you could.
The bardic. Oh yeah, he did actually just use it there. So yeah, you could do Dalton or Malchin because he used it in that grapple, try to grapple the vampire.
I'm just putting bardic inspiration in the air. Whoever wants to grab it.
And I think it's fine to give it to Dalton. Dalton. I've been rolling low even with inspiration.
Gotcha. We're sticking with the bard, inspiring the bard to bard, even better bardy. So yeah, you're gonna see as this creature's flesh sears even further. Probably for the first time, seeing like the flesh kind of like burn away, and like bone beneath kind of exposing, like as the flesh like withers from the light hitting it. Um Malchin might notice some of the flesh, like not in the light, is still healing, like some of the actual burning from the fire coming from like on its like off side, the dark side of the vampire, and it's wonder which happens first, the start of its turn or when it starts its turn. I think when it starts its turn. So let me take that back. You do not see its flesh healing, as it's kind of like melts away some of the flesh inside of the sunlight. It is going to. All right. It is going to leap up to the ceiling above you and disengage. and then it is going to run across the ceiling as if gravity were flipped, just as if it were running on the ground normal. And it is going to run out of this room. I think it can get there. Um, yeah, I think realistically, it's actually just like getting closer to like the peak of the staircase and almost in the landing that's like above. So it's probably say like 20 feet above the ground, just on the other side of the staircase. As it kind of flees away from you guys. And it's gonna go to Dalton here.
All right. Good thinking, Jinx. But as he sees the creature kind of fleeing, he's going to rush after it. Yeah, I think for now, all he can really do is he's going to attempt to mock it as it's going. Can't really. Um, yeah, I think he's just going to try to vicious mockery. Yeah, DC 13.
Gotcha. So it fails. As it's fleeing, it definitely already feels very self-conscious about this. Another 3 damage.
Yeah, because there are no windows or anything in the hallway itself, right?
Technically, the front door is kind of blasted open. But I think that's gonna be where like there's sunlight coming in. It's not necessarily like a full scale like sunlight is hitting it just by being in the hallway. Um, I feel like with most things in Tolus, you're kind of looking at like windows on the front of the house and the back of the house. It's almost like if there's windows on the side of the house, it's like a lot of like cities where like buildings are like butted up against each other. Just because there's a window doesn't mean there's any sunlight shed by it.
Okay, gotcha. Because I'm thinking, um, yeah, even if I try to use dissonant whispers to a creature like this, like it's not going to flee into sunlight because it knows it's dangerous. Um, yeah. Yes, I think that's pretty much all for Dalton this turn.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's gonna take us to Huntress here. Um, I think makes enough sense. Probably have her like run out of the room, almost like leaping up onto the stairs, kind of like trying to chase it and cut it off, but also still, oh, no advantage. Don't have. So her first shot's gonna be a crit. So what is that? 13 plus 4 is 17, and then a second shot into it, another fucking crit. For 8 and 16, so 17 and 16 is 8 and 9. For 17 damage. That's going to hit severely, brutally at this point. Um, yeah, so like as she kind of like runs out, it's like two arrows to the back of its spine. Um, and she's just going to call out, um, something to the effect of, It's mortally wounded. We have it fleeing. Kill it now. And it's going to go to Malchin. What do you have that you can try to do the finishing, the final blows to this creature basically fleeing away from you? If you can get to that doorway, it is basically like 20 feet overhead for like a ranged shot, basically. If you want to pull out your bow. Otherwise, if you got something creative,
Nothing creative, so I'm gonna stick with the bow. So drop my short sword and pull out my longbow. Rush after it, and then I'll just to make sure. I'm gonna put on favored foe if I hit as well. So that's an extra 1d4 damage. That's only if I hit it. So let's see. Oh, and I'm gonna use my inspiration for this, cause fuck this. And I rolled double nines, so that's, let's see, 9, 11, 10, 11, 12. That's a 16 to hit at least.
16 is enough to hit.
For a total of 18 damage.
Should be enough that as you kind of like come out of that room and aiming your arrow up to the ceiling, pierce like right through this creature, and it is going to tumble back to the ground as it basically will be more permanently dead, as it falls to the ground. So as you all have kind of like a moment of calm, as whatever this creature that's kind of already fed from the lioness and from Malchin, what kind of thoughts do you all have at this moment?
Malshan, not want to take any chances with this thing, even if it seems dead. He's gonna drag it into the sunlight in the dining area, just to make sure it doesn't come back.
Can Delton try to stop him for a moment? Like, hold just one moment, one moment.
Sure, okay.
Um, Delton wants to take a look, and I mean, this thing is um, obviously very deformed, but is there any way to make out any, like, does it have any uh, like humanoid feature, like facial features or anything like that still on it?
What are you thinking? For what purposes here? I would say, yeah, it's got a humanoid skeleton.
Um, Essentially, Dalton is I mean, he doesn't know what this thing is, so he's wondering, like, could this be Delphinius? Could something have happened and like turned him into, you know, whatever this is?
Gotcha. So maybe stopping Malchin as he's like dragging it towards the light. You kind of like put an arm out to his shoulder, kind of grabbing his attention, and look over to Mitharnius and ask, like, "Is this? Was this Dalphinius?"
Yeah, yeah, he would have to, yeah, rely on her. So it's like, could this be, yeah, could this be Delphinius? Yeah.
I feared the same question myself. She just kind of like pokes at the cheeks, like pokes at the like fangs in this creature's mouth with like the point of like an arrow, as she's like kind of like keeping a little bit of a distance of it, showing that she's almost like hesitant to see like a confirmation of yes or no. I would prefer not to see any familiarity between this creature, Delphinius. But this was someone, surely at some point. And I think that's kind of what she can recognize here at this point. If it's Delphinius, it is manipulated or changed. Maybe this is something I can give her advantage on. Even with that, she kind of like smells at it and it's a similar stench as that which is in the bed, but it is hard to smell beyond the oils, the damage that's been done to its flesh.
Perhaps could be something else if Phineas had to leave in a hurry or something attacked him. Perhaps this stay behind to attack. We should I certainly hope it's not him. And then, but kind of not really sure what else to say, and he'll kind of nod to Malchin at that point and be like, okay, go ahead.
And with that, Malcolm will continue to drag this body into the light.
I think there's a certain level of some of the flesh will react, even as this creature is already dead and drug into the light. But the reaction that you experience now is far from the same as when Jinx like swung across and actually like first scattered light across its flesh. Gives you a pretty solid understanding that this creature is indeed no longer like magically animated. Whatever was the animating principle died as it was fleeing. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and kind of push forward with Mithranes is going to like continue up the stairs, like head back out of the kitchen after like Dalton kind of called her back. And she like looks to check on like the next rooms here. But I think this is also like an opportune time where we should at least take a little bit of a break. Because I definitely need to use the restroom. But we skipped over ever taking a break earlier. So if we can take a shorter break, awesome. If we have to take a break till like the half hour, that'll work, and we can kind of wrap things up shortly after. But I think it's viable to say that there are more things to be picked up inside of this house afterwards here.
Yep, sounds good. Yeah, a quick 5 minutes for me should do it. So be back.
Sounds good. See you guys in a couple.
Yeah, see y'all in a couple.
Yeah, I didn't know if like what exactly classifies as a humanoid. So I figured it was that or Bane. I might as well just give it a shot.
I'm back.
I mean, Bane is one of the stupid, most powerful things in the game. So
Yeah, I mean Bane's pretty awesome. I definitely think that. I mean, Bane and Bless are both really good. I just feel like Bless is a little more offensive and Bane is a little more defensive, which is why I went with Bane in this case.
yeah, were it not resistant to like everything that it does, I feel like Bane or Bless would have been good. But it's one of those things where you almost like want it to fail to be able to bite you more than you're worried about whether you guys are sinking into anything.
Yeah, exactly. That when you like reduce people's hit points, that's like literally how stuff dies. So that's why I was like, oh man, I gotta try anything I can to like stop this thing.
Yeah, I think you guys were averaging like basically like 9 to 16 damage a turn, and it's healing 10. So it's like some turns it's healing a little bit more than you guys were doing. Most turns you're doing a little bit more than it's doing. But it had like 73 hit points. So it's like you probably did like 133 damage to it.
Yeah, I feel like the hunter getting a double crit was like a big turning point on that one.
I really love when like I actually choose to roll like the explicit dice like in front, and shit like that happens. Because if I roll my own dice, that's the type of thing where I'm like, well, I really wanted to let the vampire spawn get away. So I'm tempted to like fudge dice versus when they're just rolled. I love how simple that is.
you
Instead of
know,
trying to pretend like my narrative matters.
you know the dice never lie. So besides, the huntress was inspired, whether you believe it or not. It worked, obviously.
Oh, it's hilarious. Fishing for all those crits while she's got pack tactics. And then the moment she doesn't have anybody next to the vampire, I grabbed 2 nat 20s. Like, that was fucking craziness.
Yeah, that was a cool fight. You did a really good job too, burying the lead. Because when I went in that first room, you described the room just good enough that you could mention the big heavy blinds without making it obvious that that was going to be like an integral part of trying to beat a vampire.
And then Dalton, like, uncovered where theoretically the person changed.
Oh, so yeah, so might want to take a now after this thing, like take a closer look at that discoloration. Kind of got interrupted, but that discoloration on the bed, that could be if something bit him while he was sleeping. That makes sense. And then that would also explain, like, if it was then changing, that might explain some of the disarray in that room too.
Yeah, I was going for almost like the fever, kind of like how people go through like withdrawals. Um, but just like getting sick from a fever. You're like lying in bed. You're like super cold, so you throw blankets over you. Yeah, it's super hot, so you're just sweating like crazy, and you like throw the blankets like off of you. But yeah, just like tussling through everything, like knocking stuff around because it's like not necessarily thinking.
Yeah, and my initial thought leaving the dagger in obviously was going to be to then try to cast heat metal on it, and then once the once Jinx got the window open, I if it hadn't moved, I was going to try to because I'm assuming in Tolus like these would be glass windows.
Yeah,
I
I
was
feel
think
like the old school kind of glass where it's not like extremely like see-through, um, but you can kind of see like the handcrafted nature of it. Um, Reminds me of like the old style ones where like one corner of the window has like the like ripples in it that actually make like a lens for like looking like further away.
yeah, I was almost going to try to like get essentially behind it and then like thunder wave it through the window out into like the sunlight in the open. But that may be the glass that may be too thick for that. But that was what he was going to try.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we could have found some way. What were you thinking, Chris?
I was gonna say I'm back.
I feel like we could have found some way to like test that and see if it just happens. Like perhaps allowing to see if the thunder wave actually deals enough damage to say like break the window on that front. But also that's the type of thing where like moving in concert and like doing stuff as a team, if somebody tried to break the window and then you thunder wave through it, that would have been more likely to work. But I was 100% going to have it flee outside. Um, it's not advantageous for it to be in the sunlight, but when it gets outside, it can cover ground that you guys will never be able to keep up with it as it basically flees vertically. Um, and just like with many cities, like, I was just in San Francisco, and that was one of those things that reminded me, like, I had a window in my hotel room, and my view was a wall. Like, sometimes, like, it's good to kind of, like, remember that, like, cities are so compact. Like, sure, they put a window there, but I coulda, like, step outside of that room and probably, like, shoulder to shoulder, like, slid down to the ground with next to no effort because the buildings were so close together.
Right. So yeah, probably plenty of like shade and yeah, thrown by the buildings around. Yeah. Yeah. If we realized if I thought to like look for the windows before, we could even had like essentially somebody move there and just like hold their action to open the windows as somebody else tries to essentially force the thing into the area of effect of the sunlight. Yeah. But I also feel like it makes sense. Like it took us a bit of time to figure out. Like we just knew it was this horrific, probably kind of undead thing, and then took us in the heat of the fight, probably took us a while to realize like, oh, it's a vampire.
Yeah, I feel like it fits really well, like, in world. People kind of, like, still hear about vampires, so it's not like you need to be entirely ignorant of what it means for something to be vampiric. Um, you might have heard a bunch of different ways of fighting vampires, and not necessarily recognize like the real ones from just the actual myths that people tell. So I think there's a lot of reason to have it kind of like take some time to really figure out and like stop saying like this is not a vampire and recognize that this actually is a vampire. Like it biting into two people's necks should be pretty sufficient to say this is a vampire. But yeah, in general, I mean, we can wrap up this with like any level of kind of like casual nature as we kind of finish, because that by and large is a lot of what this was meant to be. Was kind of like furthering you guys down the path towards Rulis Hobbs is the recognition that there is some sort of undead threat inherent in this, but even beyond that, to be introduced to the threat of vampires. Um, so we can kind of like jump back into it, but it can be as casual or as not as you guys want as we kind of go back into this. Um, you know, my idea with the bedroom again was not necessarily to say that there's a whole lot more to discover, but was more to, in hindsight, recognize like that's where Dalphinius turned into that creature. Because while she doesn't notice it, um, that is like you guys have no reason to necessarily recognize it, but that is effectively what happened like in that bedroom. You're not going to find anything about him necessarily like upstairs. He is effectively Dalphinius is effectively missing. Um, and I'd say maybe it makes the most sense to kind of in hindsight have something like Mytharnius like recognizes like a bone break that he healed on this creature, and there's like a scarring on like the radius bone on his right arm where Dalphinius broke his arm like 2 years ago. Something like that might be how she recognizes him, but it's only like after searching the house and like kind of giving up.
Would this be the kind of thing that if we essentially tried to bring the remains to a temple and have someone like pay a cleric to speak with dead to learn like who it was? That'd be another way we could essentially learn like for sure that it was Delphinius.
Yeah, you can definitely. That's one thing about being inside of a city that tends to make them very different campaign style is you can 100% hire clerics to do a lot of things, and speak with dead is 100% one of those things. Um, I would have to look up to see how much it tends to cost. But I would say I think what third level spell. Want to say it's something like 2 to 500 gold per level, kind of to like get somebody to cast the spell who doesn't necessarily like owe you a favor kind of thing. Um, so depending on how you guys go about it, you probably know that yeah, roughly say like 500-ish gold, you could hire like a random cleric to cast speak with dead for.
Okay, yeah. Um, and then would Jinx have, after this is all over, would he have shared what he found in the room, the study, with regard to like
Oh, you
the?
know what? My bad. The corpse must still have a mouth and it can't be undead. This thing is undead.
Oh, okay. So I assume maybe Delton might not know that at first, but they could learn that that wouldn't be
Yeah.
an option. Yeah.
But even so, I was about to say the must have a mouth might be the thing to really question whether Malchin burnt up too much of it. But I rolled a 12 on a D100, so I would say the real question is Dalton going to take the head with him kind of thing? Are you going to collect this thing's head?
Um, with that thought initially, like until he learns that it is not possible, yeah, I think he would go ahead and take it. Yeah, with that thought in mind. And he would share his plan, his thought with the others. Now he's not just like doesn't want them to think he's just taking the head as a trophy. Like he has a thought in mind.
Yeah. So when you bring that up to the others, uh, Myth, ah, like jumping between all these screens, and I keep forgetting what I named her. Myth Ironess like kind of like comes back into the room, and I rolled a 14 for her to recognize like kind of like the wound opened up as the flesh is like burnt away a little bit by the light. She kind of sees that like radius that was broken as you're kind of like talking about like taking it to a cleric, and she'll kind of with like a down trodden like head. It is Delphinius. He broke that arm, and she'll like kind of point to the arm. He broke that arm 2 summers ago when we were hunting together. The questions you have from him, he shouldn't hold back from us. Please do him the respect of when you've asked the questions. Allow him to be interred in Delver's Guild, in crypts, befitting who he was, not who he is.
Of course, he had no choice in what he became. In the end, I'm sure. My condolences in your loss. Uh, and then, yeah, I guess like, sorry, excuse me. Would Jinx have shared kind of what he found in the study about like the notes regarding the? I think it was you said it was like a tavern or something that he had like highlighted a potential meeting or something like because those might be kind of what we have to go on in the future. Um, along
Yeah, after you guys, after we dispatched a vampire, I definitely would have took you guys over there. We would have made sure the room was more well lit, and then had a look over everything. I would have showed you guys what I found and finished investigating.
yeah, so I would say like as long as Mitharnis doesn't have, like, if she doesn't object, like maybe we take the notes with us so we have, like, you know, physical copies.
So this is the corner that I was trying to describe. 299 is the, oh man, it's like the Lougerdin brew or something like that. It's Lough something. I can drop the picture in a moment here inside of Discord. But that is the general corner that I was saying, like, on that Tuesday night at 11 p.m. That's what Delphinius kind of had marked down. Um, and I think that'll give us, yeah, a next place where we'll kind of like continue, into next week or whatever. Where we'll kind of like do what, like a stakeout maybe, and see where that leads us from there. But theoretically, I think I don't intend to leave things as they are. Alphinius and I have been together for far too long to end things a mystery. Whoever this Hobbs is, I intend to see it through with you and help where I can.
Well, speaking for myself, we could your help would certainly be appreciated.
And as far as things go in general, she's just gonna get kind of like tossed into like the NPC pools who are sidekicks for you guys as part of the Twin Star Marauders. Um but in particular, like, I'm just gonna have her kind of running with you guys in these next few kind of sessions. I vaguely knew that a vampire spawn was above 3 level 4s. But it was also, she was a random encounter. I was gonna throw that vampire spawn at you before I actually rolled for her to be there.
Oh crap! Are we level 4 now? I still have Dalton at level 3.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, when Chris said level 4, I was thinking that's what you guys were.
I was a
So
little
yeah,
surprised.
I was gonna throw a vampire spawn at 3 level 3s maybe.
Yeah, because I was a little surprised actually when Malchin withstood that first nasty bite hit, because that was like 20 something plus damage.
I think I'm the only one level 4 of us 3 right now.
Okay, because that would have killed. That would have Dalton would have been done just from that necrotic damage. Like that would have been dead outright from the max hit
Oh, that
point
might be
drain.
what it is. We leveled up the rescuers to level 3 for that session, but Malchin and Davros are probably level 4.
Oh yeah, yep, that makes sense. Yep, that sounds right.
Yeah, I'm still level 3 on Jinx.
Yeah, but that explains it. Yep, you're right, Mara.
But I feel like that sounds like a good way to say. I mean, with plans already to like jump into a homebrew world, like I don't want to slow you guys leveling these guys. I'd like to keep potentially the fun in Tollus going. It's just one of those things where to me so much of it is like I need to know what to prepare because I mean, even with this, like this guy was a teaser. It was not meant to be what you guys did today. I had the ebon hand prepared for today. Um, so it's just one of those things where that's part of why I want to like get away from Tollus. It's a lot of fun, but this is one of those places where I can see so much more of like why it's fun to develop across years because the campaign just gets more interesting as time goes on.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm always fine with, like, if you have something like in particular prepared, like I'm good with just running with that. I don't want to, like, obviously you don't want to, like, don't want to railroad people, but that makes it makes sense as something we would do next, and obviously don't want to just like completely throw you off if you spend time preparing. So I'm always good with just kind of going with that.
Works out both ways. I really don't mind ad-libbing stuff like this. It's easy enough to encounter and to make stuff interesting. Um, it's one of those things that in the long run, I've got so much of Tollus prepared. It's just a question of, like starting to describe a house, and then I was like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I describing this house? I should find a map first and then describe like a house that I have a map for. Because that was one of the things. I'm like looking for the map for a house as I describe it, and I'm like, I did that backwards. Now I have to draw the house. And I'm like, all right, cool. I should just draw the house. And I stopped looking for the map.
Right. And I feel like our group has a very poor track record of going where we're supposed to, where it would like make logical sense for us to go. Like Chris and ours groups, like I feel like it's
I
more often than
remember
not where at the end of the session you're like, I was not expecting that. Like I thought
I
you were gonna do
remembered
this.
when they went down, and I like told myself, all right, cool. I don't have to prepare Rulets Hobbs because those two are not going to remember this. And then the first thing Justin said was like, "Truly, I remember that I found that wanted poster." But I honestly think that's part of the fun of the city is not to ever like wrap up options. I think part of what a city campaign should be is a whole lot of things that you can accomplish. Because I still think, theoretically, you guys still know that there are slavers. You guys still know that there's like an undead threat here. There's still like the rat threat there. There's just so many different things where it's just a question of where are you going to focus your attention today? And that to me is so much of what's fun about running a city campaign. Because the city itself is not terribly threatening at any given time. The real threat of the city is like, do I pickpocket you guys while you're traveling across the city kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a little different playing in a city. I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's just different.
Thank you again for joining us this evening. I hope you enjoyed the action that we had for you inside of the city of Tolis. I have been your DM Marathustra. It's always a pleasure from my side to share Dungeons and Dragons and role playing with the community. Be it for new players who are enjoying something brand new, or for my players who have been joining us online since the pandemic set in. It has been a wonderful time over these years. We are in a current state of transitioning the Dice Never Lie Gaming Network, as I am looking to open up my own homebrew world to the online verse, and I'd like to actually start to invite people there. We're hoping to set up a session 04420 here, April 20th. We're looking to start a session 0 for that campaign and kind of transition away from pay to play into a tipping kind of setup. I do still appreciate everybody who supports me. It is one of those things where, from my perspective, more people I can share with, the more I enjoy sharing what I do best. And I think what that is being that creative font that is being a dungeon master. So I'd like to thank everybody who takes the time to listen, watch, and subscribe to us. Please never hesitate to leave some comments. And if you can spare, please never hesitate to donate to the cause. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful evening and be well. We'll see you next week.